Hi everyone, Ian from DIY Home and Gardening, 20th of January. Where has that time gone? And I'm in the greenhouse. Starting to make a couple of changes. So if I turn the camera around, we can have a little look. So I've got to the point, I'll be honest, I've literally run out of space in here. Not just normal space, but heated space. So on this section here, I've got had the heat map, which I will still be using, but that's essentially totally occupied with the dahlia tubers. So literally for this afternoon, dahlias have had to go in the garage whilst I try and get this build done. And then I've cut the timbers, made another supporting shelf, which I'll just be using 3 of these to hold up in some relevant spots. So one on this end where it's got nothing, otherwise one will be at the far end and one through the center, which essentially will go onto this leg here to make continuation up. So yeah, I've made the supportive shelf, and now what I'm going to be doing is making essentially 2 new heat beds. The heat beds are going to be sort of old school style ones using heated cable. So I'll go and show you that. It's come from Elixir Garden Supplies. Willow wants to come in on the video. So they do sell on their own websites. They sell via a lot of other websites, but good for me, I suppose. Strangely enough, the cheapest place to buy their product is on eBay. So that there is the heated cable, which we'll have a look at in more detail later. And that is the thermostat. And let's just open this up. That way you'll be able to see. Essentially, that's what the cable is. So you have a plug one end, and it is just a thick gauge cable sealed at the far end. And I don't know what the dog wants. And that's kind of what I'm going to be building. Kind of, but not quite. So you've seen the cable, and my thoughts are, by using this shelf here, the box that I'll be using, or making I should say, is going to be the whole size of this. So 2 meters long by 45 centimeters wide. And then I'm going to make a second box, exactly the same sizing, which will then fit underneath. So that will give me 2 beds, all heated, all running off the same cable. And so what my thoughts are, that box there will be replaced by the thermostat that is inside, and the cables will be within the box, and they run 3 times. And at this far end, I'm going to have to be clever, and I'm going to have to bring a piece up to then into the second box to then do its 3 sections that away. So yeah, that's what I'm planning to do. Thermostat obviously be controlling the temperature for the 2 boxes, and that will give me 4 linear meters worth of heated benching, as opposed to the 2 meters that I've got on the one outside. So first things first, excuse the mess, and it is an absolute mess in here at the moment. Hopefully a lot of this will go. So I've got the 2x2 timber there, so they're going to be for the supportive uprights that connects the 2 shelves together, well, top shelf plus the bases. Then I've got this timber here, which is 4x1, and this is going to be used to form the boxes themselves. I have some sections of ply there. They're going to be used to form the base. I've got a sheet of Celotex, well, PIR board, all pretty much the same. So a sheet of board in there, which is 40mm thick, we've already seen the cable inside. I've got some black polythene inside, and outside the doors there's some bags of sand. So first things first, need to create the 2 boxes. So say 2 meters long each box, and then total width for the 45 centimeter, I think. Need to double check that. So going to cut my 4 long pieces of 2 meters, then work out the intermediate lengths that I need. So I'll get that done. But I'll just show you before I get too much further. So that's the side pieces cut. I've cut one end, which then obviously would screw into place to create the end. So I need to cut 3 more of those to enable me to create 2 of these complete units. So that is one of the boxes. Just need to screw it together. And what I'm going to be using, these 3.5 by 50mm screws. I have got some 40s, but when I offered them up, I just feel as though the 50mm is going to give me that much more strength, as it's going in, well, a decent amount. It's going in at 28mm, so that's a size screw. So basically, get these set up, use set square to make sure your angles are going to be nice and correct. So yeah, that way it's going to sit all square on the bench. Now both boxes all made. Now to measure your total distances and well, cut some plywood to fit the base. So first snag is I was thinking I had a full board, but I don't. I've only got 2 small sections of plywood. However, I have remembered that I've got a load of well, OSB board, so like this board, the tongue and groove loft boards up in the loft that I haven't used. I've got a complete pack, or a couple of packs actually, so I'm going to nip up and use those. Right, been in the loft, grabbed this. So this is, as it says, OSB loft panels, tongue and groove. The good thing with these, they are really strong. They do have an additive that makes it moisture resistant, so that, well, it can go in the loft. And cool tongue and groove because it has a groove section there and a tongue piece there. And what that enables you to do is to slot one board into the other. So even where we're going to have to join them, it will create a nice strong join. So to join them together, all you need to do is just make sure you've got the right way up. So you've got a wide notch here and a narrow notch, and that correlates to the groove side. Let's just lift that on. And it literally just butts up into the gap there, and then you want to make sure that it's nice and tight all the way up before you start taking any measurements. That was easy to say, wasn't it? Yeah, so because I'm using this, it's going to be a little bit more fiddly for the cuts. So just sort of get the skill saw set up, run a straight line, butt it up, and then cut off the excess. Should be quite straightforward, but as always with electric tools, be careful. There we are, that's the box, kind of like a very shallow coffin. So that's made, obviously not quite as tidy as I would have hoped, because I'm choosing to use some offcuts of wood, so there is a joint within it, but that's fine, you won't see that. So next stage from here is to cut down a piece of Celotex or PII board. So that one there, particular make, is Recticel. But yeah, they're all basically the same. So that's 40mm thickness. So just want to cut a piece that's going to be same width, same length, and drop that into the bottom of your construction. For the time being, all I've done is I've marked out the width and just done a line all the way across, and you can just use a saw. So I'm just using an old saw, to be honest. Yeah, it's going to be more than sharp enough. Don't know if I can do it one-handed. Let me stand on the hopper. So you just literally cut through like so and work your way along. Okay, so that's the call it Celotex, but the PIR board cut. You do sort of need to cut it almost spot on or slightly undersized, because it doesn't have a hell of a lot of give. So yeah, just cut probably a couple of mil undersized. Right, so that's properly in there, that's not coming out. So that's the base done. Then polythene, so we'll get the polythene over that, and so we're going to be laying it across here and just lapping it up the top, and we'll give it a, let it have plenty of overhang until till next stage really. So I cut the polythene. This particular type, it comes as a 2 meter wide, but it's actually folded over on itself. So all I've done is I've just cut down the seam. I had a 2.4 meter length of it, just left over from a previous project, to be honest, well, the other heat mat. Yeah, so cut that in half, so that gives me a meter wide by 2.4 meters long, and well, you can see it's getting darker. But really what I need to do now, I need to get this in the greenhouse, get the polythene on it, and prepped up for the next stage. So that's the first bed in here. Now to get the polythene in, just to dress it, and then after that can set up the cabling. Now the thing with the cable, when you get it, put it in a warm position so that it's more pliable. If you try and use it straight from the box, and you've kept it in the cold, in a cold greenhouse or whatever, it's not going to be very flexible or pliable. You won't be able to use it. So good idea, put it into a nice warm room, or if you got the space, plug it in and leave it straight for a little while, for about 5-10 minutes, just so it becomes pliable and more manageable. Next up, just want to make a hole through your paneling as to where this cable can feed. Now this joint can either be situated inside the box or outside, dependent on, to be honest, the length of your cable available for plugging in. What you'll need to remember is that that is the diameter of the drill bit you're going to need to use to be able to thread this cable through your box and get yourself started. So at this stage I've very crudely laid the cable out. I know that I'm going to be putting a new timber in here to support on this end, and also to be able to take the thermostat that will be sitting there. So I need the hole to at least be 2 inches in, so it's going to be around there, and running the cable up this length, looping back down through the center, looping back at the bottom to come to here, and from there I'm then going to bring it all the way up and into the box that is going to reside on the top here. So for the time being I'm going to build the next box, and then I can then drill my relevant holes. It just means that in the meantime I can allow this cable to become a bit more lax, so I will just lay it all out into some runs, and that way it's going to be far more manageable. Okay, so that's the second bed installed. Polythene just dropped into it, got the upright on and screwed all the way down, so that's going to hold it all nice and square, nice and level, and certainly take up all the weight that is now going to be added. Drill that hole, ready to run the cable, and drill a hole this end to... Right, thought I'd show you. So just drilled the hole on the outside of the first, or the bottom table I should say, and that hole comes in just above the base, which is the hardened Celotex. And now all we're going to do is we're going to pull the whole length of the cable through to the point where this is sitting inside, just probably about 3 or 4 inches with inside. So before going further, I'm just going to set up the thermostat controls. Now it's worth obviously bearing in mind how long the cable is. That's going to be one of your deciding factors. So I need it to get that plug socket there. I want to do away with the extension leads anyway. So we know that we got a bit of movement available. Because you're going to be plugging in something to this, and it is all electrical, again, just worth having a little thought to make sure that you're not going to be placing the device in a section of your greenhouse or outbuilding where water is going to fall onto it. So, you know, even, let me example, even mount it on the side there is a good possibility that you'll get condensation running down this bubble polythene, which could get inside. So it's far better to mount it on the inside there, and again, just trying to make sure that it's not going to be in line of where you're going to be, I don't know, spraying around with a hose or something like that. So pop it nice and accessible for yourself so you can reach the controls. Have it out of direct contact of water. If you are going to be spraying water around, well, you might just have to build a protective covering over the top. But for me, I'm going to mount it around about there, and so there's plenty of slack on the cable, and also plenty of plenty of cable, which is the thermometer probe that's going to be allowing me to get that into the bed also. There we are, so that's plugged in, all set up, and now all I'm going to do, I'm just going to plug in the heating cables, and that's just going to allow them to warm. Again, a bit of warmth in the cable is well, it's going to allow it to become more flexible, and also well, stay straighter for when you're setting out. So yeah, just leave this to run for probably about 10 minutes, and it's going to be a case of setting a temperature that you want. So for the time being, I'm just going to get it to about 16 degrees, which will come in handy later also. Now certainly you can't tell from the video, but this is definitely starting to warm up. So it's already becoming more pliable, and it's going to stay, as you can see there, it's going to stay a little bit straighter as it warms up. So for the time being, I'm just going to again get this roughly leveled out and put the feed through the end hole, so then it come up to this second unit. Okay, so that's the crude setup. Got the cables spaced roughly on the top, which connected down to the bottom one, like so, which is connected into the thermostat, and you can see that the reading there. So I've set it to 16, and just to demonstrate, it's currently reading 12.4, just with the sensor probe underneath the cable there. So we've got all the basic setup done. Now the important bit, well, I say important bit, it is important. So this is sharp sand, which is then going to fill across the top, and it's the sharp sand that helps to distribute the temperature evenly throughout the whole bed, which essentially turns these from individual heating cables into even heat across the whole area, to make it more efficient. So these are pretty cold. I've had to bring them in here because they'd frozen over overnight. They have sort of thawed out a bit. So yeah, essentially now what I put over about 4 to 5 centimeters over the top of the cables. There's quite a few videos where they show it 50 mil of sand and then cable and then 50 mil of sand on top. That's fine, can do that. Is really heavy. From commercial point of view or commercial background, we always used to set onto polystyrene sheets which had a groove in them, and then you would bed the cable or the heated hot water pipes within the polystyrene itself, and then you'd put the polythene as a divide to keep it nice and clean, and then you'd put the sand over the top. So yeah, using the Celotex or polystyrene underneath, much lighter, more thermally efficient than having a bed of sand underneath and a bed of sand on top, because as I'm sure you can appreciate, if you've got sand below, then this cable here is going to be trying to direct heat downwards as well as upwards, whereas putting the insulated Celotex, that stuff, it's got the foil back into it, so that's going to deflect the heat, radiate it upwards only. Much more efficient. So anyway, let's get some of the sand open. There we are. So that's sort of the crudely set out, just trying to make sure that the cables are equally spaced. Obviously you can see the odd kink, but you can rectify that as you start adding more sand. And so just start at one end, work your way up, do a dollop and sort of backtrack, and then what we'll then do is we'll start from that end, add in sand and sort of compressing it. So we'll start from that end, work away back up this way, just to make sure we've got a nice even distribution of sand, firming it down as we go. And then once that's done, we'll then start on the top. For my recommendation, what I would say is don't go right away to the top on your first fill. Go through, get it firm, get it everything tidy, and then you'll find that actually, as well, particularly with this, as it dries, as it defrosts in this temperature, you get a little bit of movement. So leave it a day or two to come up to temperature, and then you can then go through and fill in the odd divot or slightly tamper it again, just to make sure it's going to be nice and even for proper distribution of heat, and obviously getting rid of any air pockets that may be present. Okay, so probably worth pointing out as well that each of these bags is 20 kilos. So you can then appreciate how much weight is going to be loaded onto these beds that you've made. So as I say, go through, get the cables lined. I know there's going to be a lot of staring at the top of my head. Get them lined up nice and square. Do a little tamper. You're just trying to make sure you get pockets of air out. I'm sure, well, 100%, if you cut open the bag, pour it right over, it's going to be far quicker. But you also risk moving the cables, and so for the extra time, it's just worth getting it done properly. And say then you can just make these little minor adjustments to your position of cable without too much trouble. And again, you don't want to be in a position where you're trying to maneuver the cable under the sand, because that's when damage occurs. Despite the fairly robust look of these cables, they're not that robust. So we'll just get it done. With this little bit out the bag, and then we're just tipping it onto the bit that I've already done. So you're not going to be interfering with the cable. And that last bit's a bit frozen. Right, so we'll just get that pushed up. And there actually you can already feel there's a bit of a divot, so that's what I'm saying. You want to come back to it, give it a day just to thaw out. Take your time. If it's, like I say, if the job's worth doing, it's worth doing right. And that's the first one, roughly done. So giving it a good old, well, hit down, pat down. But tomorrow there'll be one last bag to go on, so that's 3 bags on each bed, so that's 60 kilos going into that. And because we're now filled in, you can think about cutting off the excess of this. Now you can either cut to the inside or onto the top. Me personally, I'm going to cut slightly on the outside just to ensure that I've got a bit of an overhang and that no sand or rubbish is going to get between the liner and the inside. Okay, so I've come back out this morning. This top one, I've chucked on a load more sand because you can see that it has slumped down overnight with sand thawing out. I've added the extra bag onto the bottom layer, leveled that off, been using the trowel just to get that done, and overnight, so having set it to 16 degrees, it's got up to 14.7, so a little way to go but not too far. So yeah, it's going pretty well. And so yeah, as so just using the trowel to level this off, and then well, good to go really. We are all finished. A double stack heated propagation bench using heated cabling. I've managed to find the old piece of capillary matting from my other heated unit, so I'll put that on as a temporary thing until I can get some new which will cover both units. And then I guess really it's just a case of loading it up with plants. And there we are. Got a few plants back on there. Dahlia's set up. You can see with the addition of those other bags of sand, the temperature's dropped down, but that will soon go up again. So yeah, just need to get a little bit more capillary matting, as I say, and well, that's project done. Really pleased with that. Well, as I say, that's the project done. That's my 4 meters of heated propagation bench space now, all completed, which is really good. Taken me a day, not quite a full day, well, probably 3/4 of a day. Could have been more organised if I'd drawn it out to start with. Would have obviously known the cuts and things to be making. But as I say, job well done. Just need to get a little bit more capillary matting and wait for it to get up to temperature fully. My thoughts are, moving forward on this, that I might run some polythene or make a polythene curtain to go across here, because that really would help mean that I wouldn't have to be heating the whole greenhouse. The heat coming off these benches would then be contained within that section, and I'd have sort of a hot area and a cooler area. But anyway, for the time being, quite happy just to get this out of the way. It goes without saying really, I will include within the video or within the description, I'll include links and or details to all the bits that I've used, so then that way if any of you want to replicate it or do something similar, then at least you got that information. If you've got any questions, then obviously send those over to me. My first build on this type of thing for myself, although I have done it in a previous position where we had commercial propagation set up, so slightly different but the same, if you know what I mean. But yeah, if you got any questions, then obviously send those to me. If you like what I'm doing, then please subscribe to the channel. It's always good to have more people coming on board. Don't forget to hit that reminder button so don't miss out on future videos, and above all else, just have fun, enjoy yourself, try something different. You know, hasn't got to be creating something like this, but you could create your own, you know, little propagation thing, or well, just experiment with different propagation techniques. But till next time, bye for now.